So, the very first step is replacing the f of x with a y. Those are equivalent equations. One thing to be careful about is making absolutely certain that your x's and your y's are clear and distinguishable from each other, because some people write x or write y's with straight lines and then they end up looking a lot like x's, so just make sure that you're clear on those. So I'm going to make this the official step 1. You're going to switch x and y. So instead of y equals 2 times x plus 3 to the third, you're going to have x equals 2 times y plus 3 to the third. And in the most vague way, step 2 is solve for y. You're going to use those undoing steps. Avoid multiplying things out, things like that. Those are generally going to complicate the issue. So, what do I need to get rid of first? Well, let's look at this in terms of what's happening to y first. So, I'm going to do this 2 different ways, so I'll show you both of them. What's the first thing that you would do to y in the order of operations?
Add 3.
Would add 3. Then what would you do? After you add 3, what would you do? Cube it. Then what do? Multiply by 2. So, the reverse of that, so I'm going to move that and make that an arrow. The reverse of that would be to do what? What's the opposite of multiplying by 2?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2. Then what?
Cube root.
Cube root. And then what? Subtract 3. My arrow's right in the middle of that. So, if I look at this, I would have x divided by 2, cube root minus 3. And that would be my inverse of my function. So this is my original function, f of x equals 2 times x plus 3 cubed. My inverse function is the cube root of x over 2 minus 3. Make sure that your cube root ends over the x over 2 and it goes over the entire fraction, not just the top. Yeah, this that looks like an exponent of negative 1, that notes that that's the inverse. That's the notation for it. So the other way to go about it is just to solve for y. This method works for some people. It's not necessary for everybody, so I'm showing you a couple different ways just depending on your comfort level. So if I start with back with my x equals 2 times y, times y plus 3 cubed. The first thing I'm going to do is divide everything by 2. So I have x over 2 equals y plus 3 cubed. Then I'm going to cube root both sides. And I'm showing this extra step in here just to not build on the previous step. So what I have here is the cube root of x over 2 equals y plus 3. And then I subtract 3. So my end result is the same as what it was with the other way. Cube root of x over 2 minus 3 equals y, or the inverse of f of x. So there's my inverse function. So there's a way to check your inverse function, and basically you can use pretty much any number. Is anybody still writing this part? Okay. So my original function was 2 times y plus 3 cubed. And then my inverse function was cube root of x over 2 minus 3. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a number to put into my, and I can do this in either direction actually. If I take a number to put in for, sorry, this is supposed to be x. My apologies. So somebody pick a number for me. 6. So I'm going to test x equals 6. So f of 6 equals 2 times 6 plus 3 to the third. So 2, and I'm just showing all the steps in between here. What is 9 to the third? No, that's 9 times 3. 243? So I'm doing 9 to the third power. This is the original version.
Yes, it is. No, it's not. 81 times, 81 times 9. Oh, not 30.
And then what's 2 times that? Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take that number and we're going to put it into our inverse. So the cube root of 1458 divided by 2 minus 3. So 1458 divided by 2, 729. The cube root of 729 is 9. And by the way, if you didn't know that on the calculator, I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. There's a couple ways, but I'm going to show you the easy way without having to go multiple steps. You just do 729 to the power of 1/3. If you're taking the cube root, the third root, the power is 1/3. If you're taking the fourth root, the power is 1/4. Fifth root is 1/5, so on and so forth. Square root is 1/2. And then minus 3. And you should get, if your inverse is correct, you should get this number out that you put into your original. That is how you verify an inverse. So you can pick any number at all, although you do want to be careful because some numbers, like if you're dividing by something, you want to pick a number that's divisible by that number that you're dividing by. Some numbers are easier to deal with than others. But you can pick any number and put it into your original. Take the number you get out of that and put it into your inverse, and you should get those two original numbers. Your input and your output should end up being the same if your inverse has been done correctly. Questions on that? All right, so I have some practice for you.